Good morning, everybody. Live and on Zoom. I mean, they were live too, but different kind of live. All right. Actually, there's a famous verse in this week's, many famous verses, but one in particular that I'm just going to mention just for fun is Samuel F.B. Morse. Anyone know what he invented? The who? What'd you say? The roller coaster? What?
Morse code.
What was it used for? When was it used?
World War.
A telegraph. Telegraph. He invented the telegraph. And the first telegraph message was based upon this week's portion, chapter 23, verse 23. What has God wrought? So what the verse means in reality is a separate discussion, but that's what he sent. It was suggested to him by Annie Ellsworth, a young daughter of a friend, and he was able to telegraph that message from Washington to Baltimore. Okay, but what had God wrought? Not related to the meaning of what it is in the verse, but the words have actually an important meaning for us. Because whenever there's something that's invented, that's the question. What has God wrought? What is, and let me rephrase it in a different way. It should just be interesting. I know I'm jumping ahead. We didn't get into the Parsha at all, but I just thought it was an interesting thing. God gives us abilities to invent things. He gives us ideas. He gives us the ability to invent things. So what's the question that remains once we have the ability to invent it? Say it louder, please. What are we going to do with it? So it's what God has wrought in the sense, what did God give us? And really, what's the deeper purpose or what's the positive purpose of it? Do you know that every weapon, every major weapon that was invented, guess what the people thought? It would be the end of war. It didn't work that way. Yeah, made more war. Yeah. So it's just an interesting thing. So what are the consequences of the technology? Sometimes very good, sometimes very, very bad. So that's just I just thought it's an interesting historical note. So again, Samuel F.B. Morse, inventor of the telegraph and Morse code. That was the first message he sent, and it's relevant to all. I mean, think about computers. Thank God we can have a class here now and have people in New York and people a few blocks away from here. And people in Israel sometimes get online. There's some very positive things in it, but there's a lot of negative too. People blowing their minds and wasting time and doing a lot of different things with it. As I mentioned before, I always laugh when I remember the story. I was in the elevator once with a bunch of people, and the lady comes in and pushes floor number 2. And she's on her phone, looking and reading and texting, whatever. And then the door opens at floor number 2. And she's on the phone and she doesn't realize it. And I say, ma'am, if I had your number, I would text you that you've arrived. Now, it wasn't like it was 20 floors and a lot of people getting out and she didn't realize it was the 2nd floor. But she was so focused on the screen, she didn't realize, okay, so she can walk out. All right, in any event. So this week's Parsha is Balak. Everyone have a handout? Yes, okay. So Balak is a name. Who can think of other Parshas that are names? Yisro is one. Any other ones? Kayasara is another.
Korach.
Torah, good. Any other ones? Coming up soon is Pinchas. That's another one. Okay. All right, and we had Korach, right? And now we have Balak. So Balak doesn't have any mitzvahs. It's a very interesting parsha because a lot of the action is about the Jewish people, but not directly involving them. At least most of the portion is that way. So 104 verses, starts in the Chumash at 856. You still handy article, Stone edition, 856 through 875. No commandments. All right. Now, Balak is the name of a king of Moab, the Moabites. And at the end of last week's portion, the Jewish people miraculously defeat Ammon and Moab and the giant Og. All are defeated. So Balak realizes this is not good. The juggernaut of the Jewish people is coming toward him, and he's afraid of them. So he decides to make peace with Moab. He was the king of Moab. I'm sorry. He wants with Midian. Now, the Moabites and the Midianites were actually enemies, but to make a fight against the Jews, they're willing to make peace. Okay, so he sends a message to he sends a message to the Midianites, and he says, Moshe lived with you. Remember when Moshe escaped Egypt and had to run away from Egypt because he had saved the Jewish person's life by killing the Egyptian. And that's where he met Yisro, his father-in-law, and his wife Tzipporah. So they asked the Midianites, what's Moshe's power? And what was the answer? Power of speech. And said, well, if war is not working because they were able to defeat stronger countries than us, then we have to fight speech with speech. And this fits in nicely with something we learned a few months ago. When Yitzchak, Isaac, gave a bracha to Yaakov, what did he say? He said, Ha-kol, kol Yaakov, the voice, remember he was feeling Yaakov, who was dressed like Esav, and he says the hands, the voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands feel like Esav. But we say, the commentaries say that he wasn't just saying a description of the circumstances of what he was dealing with, but he was saying something deeper. What's our power? Our power is our voice, the voice of, what's the voice of Jacob? What is that? Prayer and Torah. Okay? And the hands Esav, that's, the physical. So he decided that if we can't defeat him with an army, let's defeat them with their way, with speech. And he decided to send a message to Bilam. Bilam was a non-Jewish prophet. And he was going to ask him to curse the Jewish people. So first of all, why was there a non-Jewish prophet? Prophecy is a very lofty thing. You had a question? Balak, the king of Moab, is asking Bilam to curse the Jewish people. So
Bilam, a descendant of Avrohom?
Bilam, a descendant of Avrohom? Not that I know of. Why? I don't know. I'm not aware of that. But I mean, a lot of people were descendants of Avrohom. He had a lot of children, but the main child was Yitzchak. But in any event, so he gave them a prophet so that the non-Jewish people shouldn't complain. Oh, if we had a prophet, then we would have been better. No, I'm going to give you a prophet and you're still not going to change your ways. So this is an important idea that many of us justify and rationalize our behavior. We say, if only I was in a different circumstance, if I was fill in the blank, had more money, if I was married, if I didn't have a bad past, if I did, then I would be, I'd be super good person. It doesn't really work that way. They say a story with the Rambam, whether it's a real story or not, I can't tell you. I wasn't there. But they say that a fellow decided to teach a cat how to be a waiter. And the cat was very good at balancing a tray and able to bring the food in. And the Rambam took out a mouse out of his pocket and flipped it on the floor. And the cat flipped the tray and just went chasing after the mouse. The point being, you can make somebody act a certain way, but their essence still comes out if they don't work on really changing their insides. So the cat forget about the fancy tie and the tux, the cat became a good old cat chasing after the mouse and left all the food flying, right? And that's important. I mean, the Nazis were very cultured in an external way. They loved Bach, and they loved music, and they sometimes would even have people play music as people were being taken to the gas chambers. So, these externals, we believe, the West especially thinks, if you're educated, then you'll be a different person. We'll take a look what's going on the elite college campuses, not talking about college campuses in the who knows what, and where the hillbillies are going. Talking about MIT and Harvard and Columbia and all that. These are the top universities and their true colors are showing. It's he sends a message to Bilam, and as we're going to see, Bilam is really going to be the main player in the. Balak is the one who hired him, but Bilam is the main player. And the commentaries ask an interesting question. Why is the Parsha named Balak when Bilam is going to be the main player? And one of the answers given is because Bilam is going to come across like a righteous guy initially, as we're going to see in his negotiations with God. Balak was at least honest. I'm afraid of the Jews. I hate the Jews. I want to get rid of them. So you knew where he stand from the beginning. But Bilam comes across like a good guy initially. So he doesn't deserve, there's a concept of being echad b'leiv, the echad b'peh. Look up here, you'll see what I'm, echad b'leiv, the echad b'peh. To be clear in what our heart and our mind and our mouths are. To not say, I need something from you, so I love you, but I really hate you. That's false. So he sends Bilam a message, tells the messengers, stay through the night. Why at night? Because at night is when Hashem communicates with him. He was a prophet, but he wasn't worthy of having an appearance of Hashem by day. Let me just, excuse me for a second, turn the air conditioner back on, check the heat too fast, and then it gets a little warm, and she's fanning herself away. So. By the way, just to let the ladies that are usually cold know, when we remodeled the building, I put in 2 air conditioning units, one on this side for the ladies and one for the men's side. So the men's side is the one that usually goes on. The ladies' side stays off because the ladies are usually freezing. Okay. All right. So Bilam says stays the night, and Hashem asks him, "Who are these people?" Now, when Hashem asks you, "Who are these people?" what's the implication? The people that came from Balak to talk to him, to convince him to go curse the Jewish people. What? Hashem wants to explain what's going on. What does Bilam think? Hey, Hashem doesn't know everything. Hashem's making conversation with you. He's just asking you a question. Who are these people? Tell me the story here. But he thinks, maybe I could fool Hashem too. Not a smart thing of thinking that you could fool God. And this is measure for measure. Why is this measure for measure? Because he misled people. This guy, this holy prophet, encouraged people to do gambling, to be involved with gambling and prostitution. So he was misleading people. So Hashem said, you know what? I'm going to play with him a little bit. I'm going to mislead him as well. I'm going to make him think that I don't know who these people are. And Hashem says, you cannot go with them because the Jewish people are a baruch, they are blessed, and you can't curse them. Don't curse them, don't bless them. And there's a famous saying here, Rashi quotes. Why shouldn't he bless them at least? Don't give me your honey, don't give me your sting. I don't want your blessings, I don't want your sting, I don't want your curses, nothing. Don't do either. Yes.
Was encouraging the Jewish people to stand by getting them involved or encouraging.
No. The people he was encouraging for gambling and prostitution, those were the non-Jews. Yeah. That's the beginning of the story. Okay. He didn't have anything to do with the Jews at the time. All right. I'm glad you asked. But Bilam is not giving up. He doesn't wake up and say, sorry, guys, previous engagement, I can't come, or God doesn't let me. He says, I can't go with you, implying that if they had some bigger people come, some bigger leaders come, that things would be better. And maybe if they had more money, then that would change things around. He didn't want to reveal that God is in charge. And he just said, it's not enough honor, not enough money. So Balak sends more. And he reveals he wants more money. And he says, stay the night. And Hashem says, okay, you want to go with them? You can go with them. But only say what I tell you to say. Okay. So why did Hashem change? Why did initially Hashem said, I don't want you to go, they're baruch. And this is an important idea. The way that a person wants to go, that's the way Hashem will let them go. Why? I'll say it again. The way a person wants to go is the way Hashem will let them go. Why? Thank you. Because Hashem gives free choice. I'm going to tell you what I want. You don't want to listen? You want to do what you want? Go right ahead. Do what you want. So you want to go, but only do what I say.
I
Yes.
have a question, Rabbi.
You have a question, so please ask
How
it.
could he be such a high level of communication with God and then not be able to follow the way that God tells him to go?
Because there's a thing called free choice, and Hashem didn't give him prophecy because he was such a righteous fellow. He didn't deserve it. He gave him prophecy because Hashem wanted the non-Jews to have a prophet, so they don't have excuses about why they're not good. So he gave them a choice. Now, yeah,
Bilam wanted to go, first he didn't want to go with the people because.
he wanted to go. He very much wanted to go. He wanted the honor, he wanted money, but God initially told him no, but he still wanted to go. Yeah, so the Balak was offering, enticements. He sent other people with more money. Yeah. Yes. So this is a very important idea because a person needs to watch out what they pray for. Hashem, please help that I should get this job. Maybe the job isn't good for you. So what should I pray for? If this job is good for me, let it come to me. If not, let me find a better job. Hashem, let this match, the shidduch work out for me. If it's the right one, it should. If it's not, it's not. I know of a rabbi who shared something with me. He was very honest. Excuse me. He was a fellow that his daughter was going out with, and he very much wanted that match to work out. And he prayed that it should work out, and he was grateful that Hashem didn't listen to him, because the match that she eventually got was far, far exceeded his expectations. So we shouldn't say, I want this job, I want this outcome. We should daven Hashem, if this is the right one for me, let it work out. And if it's not, then it should not. And that's an important idea, because again, the person is led in the way that they want to go. And sometimes Hashem will give us a sign, sometimes he won't give us a sign. In this particular case, Hashem was very clear, don't go, but he insisted. So now he's going to go, but has to have his hands tied. But he does not reveal the terms of his employment. I'm sure had he told the messengers that they would have told Balak, oh, we spoke to Bilam and he said that he can only bless them, he can't curse them, or he has to follow Hashem's direction, that would not have gone over well. But he didn't say anything. The next morning, he's very excited that he's going, and he harnesses his donkey. And Hashem, so to speak, says the following statement. You're already getting so excited, you think you're going to go curse the Jewish people, and you harness your own donkey? Avrohom beat you to the punch when it came to bringing his son Yitzchak as a sacrifice. He was going to pass the test that I gave him. He got up earlier than you to saddle his donkey. So what can we learn? We can learn the concept of what can we learn from something evil? We can learn determination. Determination is a powerful thing. And we have to be aware of determination and learn from the determination of the evil. Do you know that before 9/11, the Arabs had tried to destroy the World Trade Center before? They had rented a truck and filled it with explosives and parked it in the building and exploded it. And it actually did some damage. It killed some people, but it didn't do enough. And eventually the FBI found them. But the United States didn't learn from it. They wanted to destroy it. And interestingly enough, when the FBI managed to track down the people who did it and arrested them, and when they were flying by helicopter away from the court, the FBI agent opened the window and showed them, see, the building's still standing. And they were very nonplussed. The Arabs said to him, if we had more money, it wouldn't be. And in the end, it didn't take money to destroy it. They didn't need a lot of money. They just took some flying lessons and got into the planes and overtook the planes and destroyed the buildings that way. So we can learn determination from the evil, and that's something we have to match or do better than.
Rabbi Czapnik, also like October 7th, they got up early The rockets were flying at like 6:30. They
Yeah.
were ready. They were up
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
started the day early.
We
Yeah.
have to be inspired in the right way to do the right thing early and with determination. Yeah.
My understanding is that, God forbid, it said September 11th tax cost them $500,000, like nothing.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but it cost very little because they took the planes. Yep. So what ends up happening, he starts going and he's riding his donkey, and his donkey is acting in a strange way. He starts not going in the right direction. It was a donkey. Oh, I said he. My apologies. He identified as a never. Yes, it's a she. I misspoke. In any event, and why is the donkey avoiding going this way? Because there's an angel of mercy that's blocking the way. Why is it important that it's an angel of mercy? An angel of mercy with a sword? Because what we look as bad is sometimes good. So,
Why was the angel walking away when Hashem said you can go?
because it was giving him a warning. Hello, what are you doing? You shouldn't be going with them. And the Malach, the angel, blocked him 3 times. And they represent the patriarchs, Avrohom, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And by Avrohom and Yitzchak, he could go out of the way, but by Yaakov, he couldn't anymore. Because Avrohom said, from Avrohom, he was implying, you could curse some of the descendants of Avrohom, because Yishmael comes from Avrohom, okay, but you can't curse Yitzchak. By Yitzchak, you can curse, the angel blocked some of the way, but he was able to go around. You can curse some of Yitzchak's descendants, Esau, but not Yaakov. But by Yaakov, there was no way for him to turn, because you can't curse anybody, because all the tribes were, his descendants were righteous. Also, the donkey starts speaking to him. Now, for those of you into animation, this seems like not a big deal, but it is a big deal because most animals actually do not speak. And the monkey spoke to him and said, "Why are you hitting me 3 times?" Implying, by the way, that why are you hitting me 3 times? You're trying to curse the Jewish people that keep the 3 major holidays of the year. Don't. And what happens is, Bilam answers him. And I want to tell you something that Rabbi Shalevet says that we may have a hard time understanding, but I hope you do understand it. Rabbi Shalevet says, a donkey speaks to you and you answer. I'll repeat it again. A donkey speaks to you and you answer. What do you think he means by that?
That you're giving, you're acknowledging that the donkey has something important enough to say that you would respond. Question, how does it go? I'm not going to even dignify that question with an answer. I'm not going to even, in other words, I'm not even going to engage you in discussion because what you have to say is so lowly. Absurd.
Now, it happened to be that the donkey was talking more sense than Bilam was. But the point is, the idea that we don't realize today is that there's a hierarchy of creation. And the animal kingdom is not equal or above. I mean, now, by the way, if you go to a veterinarian, what's your dog's last name? They ask you that. Well, he doesn't have a last name. No, the family name. That's not his last name. He's Spot. Not Spot Czapnik, Spot.
It's called your fur baby.
Fur baby, or dogs are people too. Dogs are your best animal. Dogs are your best friend. Hello. And it's really sad because what it does is it lowers man and raises the animals. The Nazis, by the way, one of the first things that they abolished was the first thing they established was laws abolishing shechita, ritual slaughter of animals. Why is that? And someone said very well, it's not to elevate the animals, it's to lower the man. And guess what? They put the Jews in cattle cars, taking them to the gas chambers. They lowered man all the way. So today, if you look at if you follow the media and entertainment, you're going to find out that animals are usually number one. A close second are kids. A close third are women. And last are, of course, the men. They're the ones that are clueless. They don't know anything. And the kids and the animals and the women are much smarter than they are. There used to be a television show many years ago called Father Knows Best. And it was a show where the father didn't always know best, but he was given the respect as if he knew best. And it was an important idea to realize. But today you could never say, I have a show I want to pitch, Father Knows Best. Are you crazy? It'll never go. And this hierarchy of level is really very, 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 very problematic in society as a whole. But that's what Chaim Shmulevitz, the great Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir in Europe and in Israel, said, why are you talking to the donkey? Like, he's a donkey. But he did. Interestingly enough, Hashem opens his eyes and Bilam sees that he is right, because there's an angel with a sword there.
Doesn't he kill the donkey?
No, God kills the donkey. And the donkey is killed for the honor of Bilam, which is again the same idea we're talking about here, that Hashem didn't want people to point and say, hey, that's the donkey that bested Bilam. And interestingly enough, our sages say that when the sages read this passage, they started to cry and said, woe to us in the day of judgment, woe to us. Because if Bilam, the wisest of the Gentile nations, could not refute the she-ass's reproof and was humiliated by her, what profound shame will we experience in the great day of judgment? And the Almighty himself will recall all of our failures. Pretty strong stuff, right? They learned a lesson from it.
So
Rabbi?
Hold on a second, David. Yeah?
Rabbi?
1 second, David.
So we are above, a human being is above the animal, but it seems to me that.
Potentially.
Hopefully, but in this scenario, this donkey, it seems, has greater powers of prophecy than Bilam did, because she could see the angel.
Well, it's not prophecy. It was just that the Almighty allowed her to see it and didn't allow him to see it. It wasn't that. It just, potentially we are greater. But look, I say, we talk about this a lot. Our potential for greatness is greater and our potential to be worse is worse. The most fearsome lion in Africa, how many people did it kill? Maybe, I'd say 100. People do much more and much worse than that. David, you had a question? Somebody had a question on Zoom?
Yeah, if it's not,
You're
if
fading
it's not
in
the
and out.
nature, it's David, yeah.
David, what's your question? David, I don't hear you.
The nature to hear. You don't hear me?
David, you're not clear.
You can. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
You want to try now?
Okay. Yeah, I'll try. I can move.
Go ahead.
closer.
Just
Hold
now
on.
I hear you. Go ahead. What do you got?
If it's not the nature in nature's plan for man to to listen to a donkey, let's say, right? It's not normal. It's okay. So it was some kind of maybe miracle or prophecy on the part of Bilam, or that God made it so that he can hear the
Yeah,
donkey.
God made the donkey be able to talk, correct.
Right. So in a way, it was to show something to Bilam, right? It was a part of the prophecy, like he should.
He was trying to tell, it wasn't prophecy, he was telling him, I've been a faithful servant to you till now. I'm doing this for a reason. There's a
Right.
reason why I'm doing this.
And it doesn't show Bilam that he's not like at such a high level of prophecy that he couldn't even see what the donkey saw, that he wasn't.
Yeah, could be, the revelation is only from Hashem, so that's a possibility.
So that maybe that's to put Bilam into perspective, like to give him a different.
Okay, that's fair.
Or us to perspective, even but it's not. Is it some people, they said like King Shlomo could talk to animals, understand
Yes,
animals.
that is correct.
So is it part of something that people can learn, or is it a prophecy type of thing?
Yeah, we have a class in basic animal communication. No, we don't have a class like that. I'm just kidding with you. But in any event,
Rabbi, I have a question. I thought I had read in a commentary that that he was involved. He did bestiality to this donkey, which is one of the reasons why it was killed.
Actually, it wasn't killed because of the bestiality. In the conversation he had, he was sort of covering for himself. He said, "Nah, the donkey. I don't know why the donkey's doing this. I don't really know the donkey." And the donkey said, "Oh, yes, you do, because we spend many days and nights together." So the animal wasn't being punished. It really was more so that, number one, the Gentiles shouldn't worship it, the speaking animal, and second of all, had mercy toward him to save him shame. Even Bilam deserved to be treated, which is interesting, that to save him shame, let him be ashamed. But again, it's, I think, what I talked about, the idea of the hierarchy of man being on top. It's important.
Well, Rabbi, I have one other question, and again, I don't know.
1 second on the show. Go ahead. Yeah. I think the angels knew. Go ahead, Elisheva.
I thought I had read in a commentary that this special donkey was created at the beginning of creation or something like that, which to me seems...
In Pirkei Avos, correct. In this past week's Pirkei Avos.
Oh.
Chapter of Pirkei Avos. You have homework, look it up.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
What?
He said, sorry for the donkey. Bilam is the evil one, and the donkey has to be killed to save him shame. I know.
Yes, but if we understand that the purpose of creation is man, then we can understand that the donkey, yes, did his purpose, had the revelation of the angel and warned Bilam, but now for the better good, it is better that he be gone.
But besides, it gets the honor of being discussed every year in Parsha.
Yes, the most famous donkey.
Yes.
All right. And the bestiality aspect of Elisheva, I doubt that would be his fault, because it's not like the donkey flirted with Bilam. You know what I'm saying? It was Bilam's actions that were beastly. Elisheva, you heard me?
Yeah. But I still have, I don't know, I don't remember all the sources, but I thought, even though that's true, that this somehow made the donkey, I don't know if the word is tame or whatever, but
And it may be so. That's not what I remember. I gave you the reasons that I learned, which was because they shouldn't worship it and to save him the shame.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I'm wondering, when I've heard that the Mashiach would come on a donkey, is that a special donkey of some kind, a different kind of donkey also, or is it some...
A Nissan? No, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Okay. Let him come already and we'll find out. The idea of not shaming a person, they're very sweet story with Shulei Diskin. When he gave a lecture after Shabbos, a person would always go bring him a tea that he put a lot of sugar in. And one time the person inadvertently, instead of putting in sugar, put in salt. And Shulei drank the tea as if nothing happened. Don't try this at home. Salt in your tea doesn't work. So his wife came running in, it's not good for you. You can't drink this. When she realized, why don't you say something? He said, how could I embarrass somebody? I don't want to embarrass somebody. So he didn't say anything. Because he made a mistake, I don't want to embarrass him. So he comes to Balak. But he still doesn't get it. Verse 34, he says, and if it's evil in your eyes, I shall return. It is evil in eyes. You know it is. So why are you going anyway? Because he still doesn't want to give up and trying to harm the Jewish people. Now there's a verse that talks about the Jewish people living in solitude. Verse 9, page 865. What's the idea of living in solitude? Jews don't live in solitude. We're here in Los Angeles, a pretty big city, and people work in all different kinds of jobs. And the idea is that people make a mistake. They think that if we are like the nations of the world and act like them, then everything will be fine. There won't be anti-Semitism. That was the original thought of the Zionist movement, the secular Zionist movement, that if we have our own nation, no one will bother us. Didn't work out that well. If we, just act like them, look like them, don't look different, then we'll be fine. But you know what? It's not the case. That's the wrong way to fight anti-Semitism. I had a story many years ago. I haven't said this story in a while. Someone didn't like something I said in a class, and she said, it's because of Jews like you that there's anti-Semitism. Okay. So I started saying, let me ask you a question. And when I said those words, somebody was in the class, started saying, Rabbi setting a trap, Rabbi setting a trap. Said, Tom, cut it out. Rabbi setting a trap. I said, where do you think anti-Semitism would have been greater? When the Jews looked like me, or they looked like you? And she said, well, Jews look like you. I said, that's not true. Nazi Germany was the most secularized Jewish community at the time, pre-World War II. Many of the Jews there were called Germans of the Judaic persuasion. They were Germans. And many of the reform movement's innovations, quote, to have choirs and long things, were imitations of the church. That's what it was. And they thought that that would save them. And look, Nazi Germany came and yes, attacked people that looked like she did and looked like us afterwards when they went to Poland and Hungary, et cetera, et cetera. But the point being that we make a mistake in thinking we can combat anti-Semitism by being like the non-Jewish world. Just the opposite. We need to maintain our uniqueness and our unique worldview, and have the goals and aspirations that the Jewish people are supposed to have.
Rabbi Czapnik, you know that the lady who was the from member of Knesset who went in front of the president, and she has like many kids, and she wasn't willing to shake the president's hand, and the president actually like bowed down in front of her. Remember that story?
Yes. There was the assistant to the president of Israel. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
You know, like that's who they respect. They don't respect when we try to be like them.
yeah, yeah. And just the opposite, if there's an expression which gets lost in translation, but I'll say it anyway. If we don't make Kiddush, then the non-Jews make Havdalah, which means if we don't sanctify Hashem's name, then the non-Jewish world separates us that way. So we have to make Kiddush, sanctify Hashem's name, and then the nations don't have to separate us from it. Okay.
Is that a Yiddish expression? I've never heard it.
Yeah.
Is it Yiddish?
Yeah.
How does it go?
As the Yidden machen nicht Kiddush, machen the Goyim Havdalah.
Wow. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Bilam says he's trying to curse all different things, and none of this is working because he's giving blessing instead. And one of the things Bilam says in verse 10 is, I shall die the death of the upright. And this is an interesting idea. He wants to do whatever he wants and live a life of whatever he wants, but when he dies, he wants to be righteous. It's not how it works. I mentioned something on Shabbos, which I don't have the source for. I just heard it from a Rav in the community that said there's the letter Kuf in the past 3 Parshas, in the names of the Parshas. There was Korach in 2 weeks ago's Parshas. Well, this past week was Chukas with the Kuf in the middle. And this week is Balak with the Kuf at the end. You know what I'm saying? The Kuf, the letter Kuf. And that letter Kuf stands for Kedusha, holiness. So Korach, the Kuf was at the beginning because he was originally righteous and then he went off the wrong path. This week, Balak, the Kuf is at the end, the Kedusha is at the end. He wants to be holy at the end of his life, not before. But that's not, neither approach is correct. The correct approach is last week, Chukas with the Kuf in the middle, where the Kedusha, the holiness that the Kuf stands for, Kedusha, holiness, is in the center, and that's where the focus is. It's a very beautiful, beautiful idea. All right.
And Chachma and Torah.
I'm sorry?
If you think, I was just thinking about the letters on either side of the Kuf in Chukas.
Of Chukas.
Yeah, Chachma and
Very
Torah.
nice.
I don't know, maybe. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're supposed to come up with our chidushim if
That's
they
good.
don't disagree.
Chani, that's good. So Balak is not happy about what's going on. And one of the things that he says, one of the blessings he says is Matovu Oholecha Yaakov. I meant to do this today, this week. We didn't have time. Maybe next week we'll do it. The beginning of the morning service is Matov Oholecha Yaakov. How goodly are your tents of Jacob. These are the words of Bilam. They come into our siddur. We have the beginning of the prayer service. It comes into our siddur. And it's pretty amazing. What is he referring to? So he's referring to 2 different aspects of it. First of all, he saw that the tents, when he looked at the Jewish camp, the tents were not, the entrances were not facing each other. So here's, let's say, one tent, and the entrance was facing this way, and this tent was facing that way, and that tent was facing this way. They're always different places. Why? So that when someone's going in and out of a tent, you can't look inside. Maybe someone isn't dressed appropriately or modestly, I shouldn't say inappropriately. But so he was impressed with the modesty of the Jewish people, how they even had their openings in the tents not directly opposite somebody else's opening of their tent. And the tents are also referring to the study halls and the prayer and the synagogues. And also, it obviously also means the Mishkan and the tabernacle.
Has there been any Talmud talked about Bill using that phrase as a way to think how to undo the Jewish people?
To use that phrase to what?
Yeah, he's like hinting at the Balak, like this is how you undo the Jewish people. They're goodly tenants.
How is having goodly tents undoing the Jewish people?
Well, he's trying to hint to him, like that's their pride, also that's how you can undo that.
Well, I don't know if he was trying to do that. I mean, so let me read something to you that someone wrote. When we understand that we are just passing through this world and our ultimate destination is the next world, we're able to focus on the pursuits laid out in the Torah. Pursuits of permanent, enduring value. The home, the shul, the house of learning are the three cornerstones of Jewish existence. So whatever he meant, if he meant bad, he was saying a compliment, and that's why it's included in the prayer service.
Well, he couldn't say anything else.
Yeah, but like I said, you're right that that's the way to get the Jewish people to stop them from doing that stuff. But be that as it may,
So if he couldn't say anything except the drops in his mouth, maybe that's how he was telling Balak, this is how you attack them.
no, he was pretty clear afterwards, because after attempting bringing different sacrifices and different venues to try to find a place to do it, the bottom line is what he did was he tells him this isn't working. So what we have to do is we have to get the Midianite women to entice the Jewish men and get them to sin. And by lowering the spiritual level of the Jewish people, then we have a chance of fighting and defeating them. And that's in fact what happened. And the end of the portion is going to deal with that the men went to the places, to the tents, and started going into inside, and they had wares inside, and the Midianite women enticed them, and so much so that we're going to get into it more next week, God willing, that a prince from one of the tribes got enticed, and Pinchas, who was a descendant of Aaron, went and publicly killed him to stop the plague. Which is, again, we'll get into that next week, God willing.
It doesn't say that though, it says he just got up and left. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
in verse 25.
I don't have a chumash here. You want, if you,
Yeah, then Balaam rose up and went and returned to his place, and Balak also went on his way.
yeah, keep on going. Keep on going.
It's just, no, I know how to act that, but I'm saying, it doesn't say that he told them.
That's why it's called the oral Torah. That was his idea. That's the way to get them, to lower their spiritual level, and that was Bilam's plan.
But I'm saying, he said that in the blessing without saying it.
No, I hear what you're saying, and it's an interesting interpretation, but I don't know if that's the implication, because again, we put it in our prayer service because it was a compliment. Okay, he was pretty more blatant about saying how to get the Jewish people. We can't curse them because they're blessed, and the only thing we can do is lower their spiritual level, and that will give us the ability to be able to possibly destroy them. All right, any questions, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, Rabbi, so in the end, then we feel that Bilam was successful, excuse me, that he was successful in his mission.
Well, he was a catalyst for success in the sense that he caused the death of the Jews, but he himself, his cursing didn't do anything. That didn't work. He was an evil person, so he was going to figure out a way to defeat them otherwise.
What was the word for the kuf in the center? You gave an example.
Last week's Parsha, Hukas. So it was 2 weeks ago was Korach with the kuf at the beginning, and Hukas was the kuf in the middle, and then Balak is the kuf at the end.
One question, about what's the idea of living in solitude and the Jew assimilating and
Right.
is that living in solitude means
Living in solitude means that you have a different mission, and doesn't mean you can't work in a non-Jewish place. It means you can live and work, but realize you're different, and realize that you have a different job and a different focus, and your values are not the same as society's.
not forget living style, but living with the right
Mindset, correct. I mean, there's a lot of college kids, Jewish college kids that are now dropping out of secular colleges and going to some Jewish colleges, you know. Okay, any questions, thoughts, comments?
I got a question.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm wondering that all these things that are happening in this Parsha, they take place outside the knowledge of the Jewish people who work down in Torah. Would they even know what was happening, or was this completely?
They did not know, and that is part of what we're talking about of Hashem protecting us. I mentioned it on Shabbos. I'll tell it to you again. A story that happened to me several years ago. We were on a plane going to Israel, and when we landed, one of the people sitting on our row said that they got a message from a friend. Are you okay? Because the flight you were on, someone called up and said there was a bomb on the plane. So a bomb on the plane, that's pretty dramatic. And we didn't know anything about it. For good reason, the El Al staff did not tell us there was a bomb on the plane, or there was supposedly a bomb on the plane. So when they came off, the Israeli press was there and they wanted to know, did you guys see anything, hear anything? And part of the way over certain countries, jet fighters flew next to the plane just in case something was going to happen. So everybody said, we didn't know anything. A lot of people didn't know what they were talking about. I happen to know because this lady on our row got the message about it. So in my broken Hebrew, they say, what do you say? I say that God protects us even though we don't know about it sometimes. So here, the whole story happened with Balak, and the Jewish people didn't know about it. They read it in the morning Torah portion instead. All right. Questions, thoughts, comments? David, Gabriel, and Shmuel, and Elisheva, and Ruth, and Chani, and Michelle, and Malka. Everyone have a great week.
Thank you, Rabbi. It was a good turnout today.
You too. Have a good week, Rabbi. Shavua Tov.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Well,
Rabbi. Shabbat Tov.
Bye.
thank you to you as well. All the best. Take care.
Thanks, Rabbi.
You're very welcome. Take care.
Question that's premature. What happened afterwards, after he, pulled the Midianite women to?
Yeah, next week, Mr. Channel. Stay tuned. Same station, same channel.